the beginning of the year to set down, and so I've been reading some business books lately, and kind of they all had the first thing in common, which was writing down and documenting your goals, your vision, and exactly what you're doing. And I think it's really important at different stages to do this in your business, because when you start, it's great to have it, but it's also good to kind of go back and see where you're at, see, have I been following through, am I still staying focused? Because I hear over and over and over again, like, yeah, I'm kind of doing this and I'm kind of doing that and I'm not really sure, and it's really easy to lose focus. So I thought at the beginning of the year, it's a great time to refocus yourself, see where you want to go for the year, and put it down on paper, because a lot of times it's hard to take that time to actually sit and put it down on paper. And I thought it was really interesting, and I know you all have heard me say this over and over again, but to then go and reread it in these business books about having that hobby and jumping in and starting it. And that's why I think it's really important to write it down, because a lot of people do just kind of jump in and they have an idea, and that's really important to get small businesses started. Because if you went through and you planned and you made all these projections, I know it's important to have your business plan and all those things for a bigger business, but for small businesses, realistically, a lot of people just jump in and start, and that's really good, because otherwise you wouldn't do it. But putting that vision to paper can be really important. And so the first thing we're going to do is exercise 1 and business goals. So first we're going to write down 10 goals for our business. And a lot of times I feel like when you're business planning, you can get stuck, because you're trying to make the perfect exact thing, and you want to put it, exactly where you're at. So you're all at different points. Some of you have been doing this for a while. Some of you are just starting. Some of you are transitioning. So I want you to be kind of specific about things for this year. You think about where you're at now and where you would like to be next month, the month after, so just for this year. So we'll take maybe about 10-15 minutes, and I have some examples. Would anybody like to share?
I'll start. I have a goal of one day being on Shark Tank.
Oh.
On what?
Shark Tank.
What is that?
It's a beat up session. I guess it's better than going to the gym. You don't get as sweaty, but you go in with your business, your idea and your business. You tell them your financials. You go with what you want. They're venture capitalists.
Oh, yeah.
And so if you want to grow, like one day I want to be a vendor for Harley Davidson and some other places. I would love to see my bandana clothing line with the Harley Davidson logo on. And that would be great. A lot of women, ride, and so they need more than just the regular t-shirts and leather vests. So I would love to be able to have that ability and, do that.
Well, they have those, they're starting to have them more around here as well. I just went to a conference, Venture Local put it on a couple weeks ago, and they had a panel of 5 experts, and kind of the local experts who do banking and venture capitalists and self-help credit union, and they had 7 or 8 businesses get up and do their 5-minute pitches, and they didn't give them, it wasn't to give them money, but it was to give them like tips and they had to get up in front of, there were, you know, a good 150 people in the room as well, watching them give a pitch. And I would love to do something like that here for the people that do want to do that, do want to get capital. It's so hard in craft-based businesses to get any kind of capital from anyone.
Because I have an idea for a patent of making my own breastfeeding curtain.
Oh, cool.
You know, with movable parts that will fold into itself. With the bandana as a curtain that will come off and be washable and be put back on, and it folds into itself. So it's patentable. It's not like clothing that
Yeah.
you can't patent. You know, so, and all that takes money and funding.
Yeah, that's a great goal.
So I have watched that program, and I found it very enlightening,
It is.
because, have you watched it?
I haven't.
Oh, you did?
Because they ask, it's very out front. I mean, they ask very good questions. You mean, you expect me to invest this amount of money in your business, and you grossed how much this year? Where, you haven't marketed this? I mean,
Yeah.
it's been very eye-opening to me.
And there's some
Yeah.
interesting people that
Yes.
get on there, but there's also some good ideas too, and so it's very.
Yeah, and so they give the reasons why they reject them, which I think are as important as the reasons why they give for saying,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm interested. I find it very enlightening,
Yeah.
as well as entertaining.
I love that show. I don't miss an episode.
Yeah. So I'm sure what you described was just as interesting.
It was very, because everybody has different ideas, and it seems like I'm like, oh yeah, I could do that, but I know exactly what people are looking for, and it was just interesting to see these people who really have incredible ideas and just not be able to pitch them at all, leaving so much information out, so much information. When you want someone to invest in you, you have to have these certain things, and you can find it there are so many books out there that tell you step by step exactly what you need, and so it was interesting.
But that kind of goes back to the importance of a business plan.
Yeah.
Which, some people just jump into it, which is, great if you've got the gumption to just do it, but then as soon as you jumped, I think everyone should go through the very painful process of writing a business plan, because if you can do it, then you can put together your 5-minute speech.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's basically writing that outline itself. It's like painful.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is kind of stuff helps. Anyone else like to share your goals?
One of my goals for this year is, now that I've determined my target market, to find the target market. How do I get to those people? So, that's one of my goals for the year anyway. And for the next month or two. Hopefully by spring, but yeah, definitely for the year.
Excellent. Good goal.
One of mine is to do just a little bit of work on defining my direction, because I definitely feel like I scatter myself among so many different facets of my interests that I really could be more successful if I focused on like one certain aspect, whether it's writing knitting patterns and really trying to market those, or focusing on just teaching, or is it shows that I want to be doing and like producing product all the time, because there's just not time to do all of that. And work and eat and sleep.
Now you're gonna make me rethink mine, because among mine, I have, I want to teach a couple of workshops. I want to keep my 2 classes, ongoing classes that I teach going. I want to apply for some jury shows. And I want to increase my inventory.
And I think if you're
too.
doing it,
All of the above.
I think if you're doing it totally full time,
Yeah.
then it's different.
Yeah.
For sure.
I also have to take a day off once a week.
I have that
That's a good goal. That's a really good goal.
I think everybody should have that one.
I agree.
And I have the problem of volunteering for way too many things, so I have the be in the studio on a regular basis, because what I end up doing is when I am in a show, or I have a student coming, I do this total, oh my God, and I'm 2 o'clock in the morning and just not not fair to myself or anyone else, so, just wanting to be every day in the studio during the week and produce a certain amount of retail value every single week. And that way, when I do have shows, I have product that I
Right.
just pull off and go to the show instead of working until midnight and then trying to be very happy and sell when I'm really grumpy.
I have, if I can, I'll share a tip that one of my studio mates gave to me that really helped me, because when I first, last year, when I was really trying to get into a rhythm, and keep track of what I was doing, she suggested I start keeping a log, and every day when I'm working, in my case pottery, I don't mark it as retail, because a good amount of my sales are wholesale for galleries and other clients. I keep a wholesale log, so whatever I make, I translate it into wholesale dollars,
Right,
which is my minimum,
right.
hopefully, that I'm gonna bring in, so that I can look at the end of the week and literally see how productive I'm being, see how it measures against the time I'm spending, the costs that I'm incurring, and just kind of build from there. And it does sometimes, you get to the end of the day and think, oh, what did I do? And you look and it's like,
Oh, yeah, I did.
yeah, okay, I did that. Telling it's another matter.
Yeah. That's what pricing your work at, with Lynn's craft lab that she does with pricing, taking that average cost, so say your average between your high stuff and your low stuff is $50, and so how much do you want to make out of the end cost that you're actually making is $50. So if you want to make $10,000 this year, how many pieces do I need to sell? And doing the math and then saying, okay, if I need to sell this many pieces this year, I need to make this many pieces. How many weeks am I going to work? I'm not going to work 52 weeks. I'm going to work, 30 or 45. So 45 divided by the number of pieces, yeah, I need to make. And then you can figure out how many pieces you need to make per week. And then, okay, you can even go further. Okay, how many days is that? How many pieces do I need to make a day? And so that can be a really great way to get you in there. Because if you're like, look, it is Wednesday and I'm supposed to have made 5 pieces this week and I've made 1 or none, yeah, like I have to get in there. And it can help really encourage people, encourage people to get that regular.
Well, it's hard, I think one of the,
motivation.
when I've been fortunate enough to be full-time in the studio for a number of years now, but I remember when it first happened, when I realized, okay, I'm in the studio now, this is what I do. I literally spent the first 2 weeks kind of wandering around going, okay, because, when I was only there part-time, it was so much more defined. I have this much time to get this work done. I know I have these goals, these shows, these things, and so I'm gonna get it done. And then when it was like, well, I'm coming back tomorrow, and you just dither about, and so it's good, because it's like saying it's having a log. Once you figure that out, then the daily log means something, and I can look at it and go, hey, I can take 2 days off, or not. Yeah, it is, it's yeah. Self-employment can be really directionless if you don't buckle down. You're welcome.
Oh, boy.
Does anybody else have anything else they'd like to share?
I was looking at taking care of my own creativity, so participating in creative projects, and networking with other artists and art organizations. Super helpful.
My friend teaches a really great creativity class, if anyone's ever interested in happily share. I think this is Tracy Schmidt, and she's a poet, and she teaches some fantastic creativity workshops and stuff, so, yeah, that's a good thing.
Well, the next step is, because sometimes I feel like goals are a little bit easier. This is what I want to do. This is my ideas. Like, I want to be in my studio every day. I want to do this and that. But the next part, I think, is really important, and it's often left out, because it's how do you define success? Because a lot of people think, well, money, I'm making it. This is my job. That's success. But that's one thing, and it's often not what success is for a lot of people. especially people in creative industries. So now we're going to think about how you know when you're being successful. And it's not like something that you reach. Now I'm a success. You know, it's these ongoing things that help keep you motivated and keep you reaching for it. And they're those things that you're looking for. Like, this is a goal, but then this is a success. And this is what I'm really working towards. This is goals. These are things that I need to reach. But this is success. And it can be, you know, small things, and they should be pretty detailed. Things that when you reach them, you're like, I am being successful. And they will help you achieve your goals, because if you're a success because you've made it, you've stayed in your studio enough that now you can afford an outside studio or you can afford an assistant, having that success out there, you're going to want to achieve those goals, because you're like, that is awesome. This is where I really want to be. I want to be a success so I can afford to stay home and, you know, take care of my kids, or I can be able to have the job flexibility and the money and the success to be able to go visit my mom once a week, you know, or stay at home and take care of my mother, or go on a vacation once a year. You know, this is what you're doing it, because being a small business owner, having your own small business is hard work, and there has to be a payout. And a lot of times, if you're working for, you know, just a regular job, a lot of times it is just for money. I mean, there's some personal fulfillment that comes into it and some good things that you get out of it. But being a small business owner, those successes are really great successes. I mean, it can be super rewarding. That's why you all do it. So try to have concrete ideas, successes. They can be pie in the sky ones. They don't have to be things that you think you can come and happen this year. It can be like years down the road. But yeah, we'll do another.
Top of my list is I want a good reputation and a well-branded name so that I can start taking more orders and knock on doors less. I want people to get to know me, so they're calling me instead of me. You know, I'm busy working and creating in my studio. That's where I love to be, but then I have to get out there and sell it. I would like them to call me and say, hey, do you remember? Would you make me one? And so I can continue doing that. I'd also like my company to make enough money so I could start using company money for my inventory instead of my own personal money. And also, I love being an artist, and I want to be self-employed, and real success would be just staying an artist and making enough money where I don't have to work for somebody else. And then, of course, I would like to travel too and visit my sons a few times a year.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we get it in other jobs. Why not? You know, being self-employed.
I put down something a little similar. I don't have a website yet, and I want to eventually get to have my own website so that I can reduce the amount of time that I'm spending doing shows, which are really tiring, and reduce that commission that you share when you have your work at other galleries. You know, it would be nice to have a lot more of the revenue instead of giving them 40%. Oh, really? Okay, yeah. So I think that would really help a lot, which goes with my other one, which is about my revenues.
Some simple things like that. I'd like to make enough money to be able to draw a salary and contribute to the household bills.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be nice. Be in at least 10 galleries across the country this year. I'd like to be invited to display my work at some of the more competitive shows. Get into the guild. Be able to take at least one scheduled vacation each year. That's most of it. Yeah.
My main one is I go to Spain and do that. I'm doing that.
Everything else is all.
I would like to have
oftentimes at shows, there'll be like the local blogger, the person who does that blogging, and so naturally they're going to take lots of pictures of lots of people, but I think it would be success to me if somebody just online, who doesn't know me and doesn't live in the area, would randomly like find my work and like it enough to write a post about it, instead of me seeking out those kinds of opportunities. Kind of like, instead of asking me, "Will you please write about me?" Fun stuff.
I had a small thing happen like that with my blog. I had somebody, and I'd never really looked into it, but I think that it helped their blog. So what they did is they have these little contests or awards or whatever. They awarded 10 blogs on that post, and they listed all those posts, and they explained why that award was there, and I was given one of those awards. And it was neat, because then there was other people that were looking, and it also.
What kind of award was it? Did you have to award it as well?
It was,
I got one, but you also awarded it, didn't you? 'Cause
Yeah,
I got one, and
that was one of the
I
things
had to
you-
give it to 10 other.
right.
Yeah.
Right, and it was interesting for me, because then it made me search out who would I select.
It was aimed at blogs with fewer than 200 followers, I think, or something like
Was
that.
it, she didn't have a
It's like
blog.
an indie blog award. If it's the same one.
I'm sure there's more, I'm sure there's a lot of different ones that go around. I mean, you can create your own.
What a great idea.
Yeah, it was really kind of like, oh wow. But it opened up the network quite a bit.
Another measure of my success would be the balance on time with my husband. We did an addition last year on our house, and I still don't have baseboards, I don't have casing. I'm a woodworker, I shouldn't have that. It's like, I don't have time, honey, I gotta get ready for the show. Time to work on the house as well.
Oh, that's awesome. These are all great successes. If you get them. So the next part is trade skills, and kind of a theme that you hear over and over and over again in small business is how do you learn how to be a business owner? Where do you get these skills from? Most people don't get them from university or formal training. And a lot of them you can't learn in formal training. A lot of it are, things that you grew up with, that your parents taught you, that you learned in all sorts of situations. And those things are called trade skills. And this guy that kind of coined the term says that you can't be successful without them. I would disagree to some point. I think to run a really successful small business, like that where you have multiple employees and you're in the black every year, lots of money, like yes, you need to have these trade skills. But to have a one-person business that, especially if your success isn't necessarily having a lot of money, it's definitely doable. But they are handy to have, and they are handy to know about, and to kind of talk about, because then you're aware of where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are. So you can kind of work, if there is an opportunity to learn, to get better at these, to develop these, you will take that opportunity. And if you're having a really hard time with something, you can kind of realize, oh, this isn't something that I don't know, or this isn't something that I haven't learned in a class or an all meeting or something. It's just somewhere where I have difficulty in, and I need help with this part, where it's kind of an ingrained thing where you're just might not be very good at it, and it's not necessarily your fault. It's not your fault. It's just something that maybe you haven't had a chance to develop, and they're much easier to learn when you're young. You can still kind of learn and develop them as you get older, but since they are kind of those more ingrained things, but they can be definitely developed. So And one point I thought that was really important to put in here is that trade skills are not the same thing as being skilled at a trade. So that's a very important differentiation. And so there are these 10 attributes that Whitmire, what's his name? Claude Whitmire and Sally Raspberry, they kind of came up with this like trade skills term and did all the research over years and years and years and came up with these 10. So I'd kind of like to get some of your all's ideas about these. So the 10 are being persistent, facing the facts, minimizing risks, being a hands-on learner, being good with numbers, being organized, being able to read carefully, self-starting energy, cooperation, and consistency in behavior. So I guess we can start at the first one, being persistent. Do you all have any ideas on that one and why it might be important?
I have a real good idea about that.
Yeah.
I've been in business for 21 years now, being persistent, yeah. On all of these, I read through them, and that's pretty much the story of my life, right there. And it was not going to school, you know, learning how to run a business, you know, from college or anything. It was school of hard knocks. And, you know, so when you get knocked down, you get back up. When you feel like you want to close the doors to this one thing you're doing, you don't. You just keep going. You know, you had a bad day, you know, and you have good days. And sometimes there's things you don't like about what's going on and what you're doing, and you might have to change what's happening and what you're doing, you know, with a customer or something, and facing the facts. Minimizing the risk. When you do something and you find out it doesn't work and it didn't work and you got the same thing coming at you again, then you're like going, that didn't work last time, it's not going to work again, so you minimize that risk. Being a hands-on learner, school of hard knocks. Numbers, you've got to sit down, whether you're an artistic person, you want to sit down and you got to make that brain, that side of the brain work, because the numbers are what tell you whether you're being successful or not money-wise. If you can pay your rent, if you can pay your employees, if you can pay your vendors, being organized and able to, you've got to do all of that because you've got to read those IRS papers and things that the government throws at you and all of that. Go to work every day. Self-starting energy, you just show up, whether you feel like it or not. Cooperation and consistency in behavior. You know, there's some people you just really don't like working with, but you just do it. You just do it, and you smile about it, and you're constant in your behavior, and you should keep showing up for those 20 years. You just every day. And one thing my business consultant told me a long time ago is this: you can be successful at anything you do, but on this list of things that you wrote down, which were a bunch of things at the very beginning, what am I going to do? What business am I going into? You pick that one thing and you stick with it, and you don't go all these different ways. This is what you're doing. And it was contract sewing. It has changed a little bit over the years because of the economy and the way things done, but you know, you morph with it. And that's how you stay in business for 20 years and have a reputation that looks good. So that, I like that. Because I was like, yeah.
A good way to test out, I mean, because a lot of these qualities, if I look back, I acquired a lot of these skills by following paths of things I was passionate about. And usually, I mean, unfortunately, it sometimes almost has to be against some odd, because otherwise you don't even become aware of how much you want it or how hard you're working. But it's like on all of these things, I think you also have to be willing to ask yourself, are you willing to do all these things? You know, in other lifetimes and other careers, all those types of skills. I can point to different jobs I had that helped develop certain parts of the skills, but the base skills all came because I had identified a passion, something I wanted to do, and I was gonna do it. And it's like you almost have to develop these. If you're doing it, if you're not willing to, I mean, it kind of answers its own question. Because if it's a job, I've had jobs I've really enjoyed, but there are some of these things on this list, it's like, yeah, I wouldn't do that. Not for that job. For me, I would.
Well, I think like the persistent is, for me, is like to be persistent and believing in your dream and your vision, no matter how many people tell you it's impossible. You know, just keep being persistent and believing in yourself.
Interesting, because I read that being persistent completely differently. I read as being persistent as in keeping going.
Tenacious.
And being tenacious and keeping knocking on doors, no matter how many times you be rejected. And I was gonna ask.
But then it's followed by facing the facts. And then you gotta see whether or not you're beating your head up against a brick wall over and over again. And maybe you better try something different and do
Yeah.
something that, will help you get there instead of,
But when you do things that are completely out of the box, everyone's gonna tell you it's not gonna work, you know? I mean, so then that's when you get where you really have to be persistent, and then flexible at the same time, but, yeah, because when you do something out of the box, it's really easy to get discouraged, Oh, it's not gonna work,
It's interesting. I ran a non-profit business for about 18 years that I took from a very small place and grew and had to acquire all of these skills. And I think that I have many of them. The hard part for me is I can do it for other people. But to turn around and do it for myself is really, that's one of my goals, is to be able to see myself as, worthy is wrong, but to make that investment of using these skills, it's hard. And I admire people that
Well,
can
like
do
what you
that.
just said, I can do it for other people as a sewing contractor, people bring me these projects, and it's for them. But now going off into my own thing as Kathleen Lewis Designs, it's different for some reason. I can still use those manufacturing skills that I have by, what I've done for other people, but, yeah, it's different.
I
It's
can
a
just
different-
feel my heart going,
Uh-huh,
just the whole
it is
thought of
different.
it just makes
Yeah.
me,
Taking photographs and stuff that getting out and, actually marketing and selling your stuff, your own stuff, yeah, it's different. And that is going off on another tangent, even though it's still sewing. Yeah, it's okay. It's all good.
Yeah, these are hard. I think just realizing them though, and putting them down on paper as these are important things. It might be scary at first, but then as you're going through the process and you're having trouble and you're not getting the work that you need to get and you're not getting out, you're having to go out and search for those people and saying, okay, I am being persistent. And this is what it takes, is being persistent. Because those are one of the things.
One thing this is my second go around, I actually used to have an advertising business that I sold, I was in a profit within 6 months. And a lot of it was B2B sales, but because of personal issues with my ex-husband, or he was now my ex-husband, and it wasn't working. Being a single parent while you're married just doesn't work. And when you own a business, you work 40 hours a day. To get it to a point where it doesn't work you don't work it just does its own thing. You're just sitting back enjoying it, when you're branded to that point. So what I found was to know your weaknesses first, because if you know your weaknesses, then, and those challenges that you have to face, then it makes your strength stronger. And then you know where you need to go for help, and you don't waste all this time on stuff that you already know. You can say, okay, that's over here. I have to mess with it right now. I need to go over here and mess with it. And
knowing those weaknesses so you can ask for help. Or like, why am I not able to get this done? Oh, it's because I'm not very organized. And my stuff is all over the place. I need to call up somebody and have them come organize my house, or organize my business, or organize. I worked for a landscaping company, and it was so unorganized. The most successful landscaping company in Asheville on Angie's List. Very successful. Crazy unorganized. And I don't know how it got to the point, but when it got to that point where I came on, it was in crisis mode. If they didn't have me come on and organize it, it would have imploded, because it was just to the point where customers were starting to get angry. And so if the owner hadn't realized, like, I have to do something, this is not my strong point, I need to find somebody who can, then it would have been, it was almost a disaster. I mean, luckily. So knowing when these things, are your weaknesses, and it's really, like, it can be make or break for these kind of skills. Can really, I mean, those business skills are important, what we do in SWOT analysis and business, whatever, all those things. But yeah, these can be really make or break. So that being said, we are going to do this exercise of kind of strengths and difficulties, and these can be attributes. They don't have to necessarily have to do with trading skills, but just kind of make up your core business skills, what you have strengths with and difficulties with. And since we're a group of women, and this was actually in a book that I read, but I agree with it, it can be harder for women to kind of speak up about their strengths and to really own, this is what I'm good at. Men have a much easier time in general kind of doing that. So put yourself in a gracious mood, give yourself the benefit of the doubt. It is time to toot your horn and be honest about what you're really good at. So what I do best on the front, I made 10 of those bullet points because those are very important, and then 5 of the other ones. What I'm not great at, but I really like doing, what makes me nervous, but I can learn to deal with, what I really do not enjoy doing, and things that I can give up and or share. One thing out of each category, because I know there are probably things that other people have thought of that you haven't thought of, and this would be a great brainstorming session, because I know these lists can be really difficult to do sometimes and to recall. So, Ryan, Ashley, do you want to start?
Sure. Okay, what I do best. I think networking I'm really good at. And what I'm not great at, but I really like doing, is the photography of my wares. And recently I started engaging the help of a photographer friend, because they were always good enough, but they weren't professional. And that's actually made a huge difference for me in the way my things have been selling.
Is that the photographer that took the photo that was in the Laurel?
Yeah.
Yeah, we sent, when we did the holiday market, I sent them 10 different photos from different artists, and they picked hers because it was such a great photo.
Yeah. But I still want to do it myself. It's really hard to let that go. What makes me nervous, but I can learn to deal with. I'm always nervous about teaching, but then as soon as I start doing it, it's a lot of fun, and I feel like I'm pretty good at it. What I really do not enjoy doing is keeping track of my pricing so it's consistent. I feel like I'm always going backwards and trying to remember, what did I charge for that, because this is similar. And I feel like I'm constantly figuring out the formula over and over and over again and trying to reinvent the wheel. And if only I would just keep a log, it would be fun. Things I could give up or share. Things like hanging posters and passing out information for events or classes or whatever. That is stuff that just takes up so much time, and I know there's somebody out there that I probably could do a trade with, or pay like not a ton of money for someone who already is doing that kind of thing. Like there's people already all over town passing out posters. So that's something that I've been thinking about. Like that's nice. Thanks.
My turn? Okay, what I do best, artwork, research, organization. I know when it's time to take a me moment. I perseverance and persistence, knowing when something isn't working the way I had hoped and ask for help, and networking. What I am not great at, but I really like doing, is social media. What makes me nervous, but I can learn to deal with, is dealing with tax forms and making cold calls. What I really do not enjoy doing is taking photos of my work. Retyping my notes after workshops or meetings, because I do that just to remember everything I heard. And things I could give up is my to-do list is way too long, and I know I could delegate a lot of things, and I don't.
Excellent. Well, hopefully these notes will help you, so you don't have to type up so many after.
Well, I actually didn't even see this whole list. I just wrote down strengths and weakness columns in general, but the things I could give up would be research. I hate to do research. And what I really enjoy not doing is reading all the fine print and everything. What makes me nervous, but I can learn to deal with, is new things, you know. But it's also a strength because I will try anything one time, you know. I had a job once where they were like, hey, you want to go on TV? Sure, you know. So I went and did this slot every, I can't remember how often it was, but I'm like, sure, I'll try it one time. But, and I guess what I do best is I just have enthusiasm, and I learn really quickly. And a lot of what I think and want to do is outside the box, and just being persistent and like, yeah, it's possible. You know, don't tell me it's impossible. But so I don't know. There's a lot of things that I'm not great at, but I still like to do them. So anyway, I just gonna do that.
And I like that you went back.
Yeah. Well, see, reading the fine print. Oh, okay, I'll just read that
That
sentence.
was good, because I like that, just kind of doing a little different. And I'm gonna, what I do best, because nobody else will say this. I don't think anyone's gonna say it. I am a former CFO, so I love the numbers and love to do it, and I'm good at it. So I'll say that. But I think the other thing, as a woodworker, I think I'm really good at telling my story. It's a different story. Women in woodworking, you don't see a lot of that. So I get a lot of people to come up and they're just really enthused when I talk about my story. What I'm not great at, but I really like doing, is creating new products. I don't have enough time to finish what I need to do, and I really want to be doing that other stuff, and it takes so much time to create a new product and make sure it works and it's not going to break, blah, blah, blah. So, but I like doing it. What makes me nervous, but I can learn to deal with it. I have lots of things there. Probably my biggest thing is going to be keeping up with a production schedule, because one of my goals is to be in 6 different galleries and have 6 different shows, you know, so I've got to keep my inventory up. So I think my discipline of time is the critical thing. And what I really, not only do I not enjoy, I hate is social media. I even drew a little face next to it. I hate it, and hate photographing my work. I don't do it well. So something I could give up or share is finding someone to photograph my work, because I need to have a consistent professional look, and I need to just do it.
I'll do your social media if you do my numbers.
Totally on it. Totally on it. Your name is?
I know, we'll get to talking about it.
Okay, all right. That's
It's really reasonable.
Okay. That's what these are so good for. I mean, I love the networking aspect, because we all know different people within that series.
I guess what I do best is I excel myself, and I'm able to share with people my experience. I'm good good at delegating work and responsibilities. And I love brainstorming ideas and creating products. That's something I really do best. Analyzing profits and looking at the big pictures. That's what I really enjoy. What I'm not really great at, what I'm not great at, but I really like doing sometimes, is design. And, networking with like-minded people. The website and blogging development. Things that make me nervous. It's the same thing, design again. It's just different aspects of the design. The photography of my products. What I really don't like doing, but I go ahead and do it, is the QuickBooks and organizing paperwork. And quality control. When you go and have to inspect things, lots of the same thing. Things that I can give up and share is a lot of the assembly, just bread and butter stuff. Organizing the shop and office. Sometimes I get too caught up in the fabrics and stuff and I don't get it organized because I'm looking and creating in my brain, so I need to delegate that to somebody else. Quality control, I keep wanting to give it up, but I can't because the buck stops with me. So I have to do the quality control, so. But, it may be the photography of my products. I don't learn.
Oh, I have no desire.
Zero.
I'm like, oh, I should study web design and I should take a photography class, and it's like, you can't do.
I think there's wonderful people in the world that can be CPAs or accountants, and wonderful people that can do the photography, and we should share that with them. Let them do that piece.
Before I forget, Jackson, the library in Silva, that courthouse that's been renovated, they actually give a free class where you lead with the design, with the website. It's WordPress, and they,
There's one at AP Tech also, that's, you all should check the catalog, it's like that.
yeah, so they're regularly doing this. You just have to call and you sign up. It's like 13 people. It's completely free. You leave. You have the website. Of course, you have to personalize it and do all this stuff, but they give you all the basic information, and yeah, you can go with it.
And what's the name of the photographer?
Paul Anderson.
Paul?
I can use his phone number right now.
Yes, let me write this down.
He's really great, and he is really passionate about helping artists, so his rates are far lower than you'll find for most.
And he does photographing work.
Products?
Products and products on people.
Fashion?
Yeah. So like I model most of my products, and he takes some of them, like macro shots up close for detail, and then some with, me, people. So, it's 242-3349. And that's only because I don't want to also pay somebody to model, so.
And Michelle, you said you had.
Yeah, I'll have to email it to you. I don't know if I have his number with me.
You can go and put it on the forum. We'll make that a forum on the member website.
Oh, yay.
Resources.
Yeah.
So photographers, so people can go and put in photographers. Photography, I'll make that.
And what you were talking about was website design?
You lead with a website.
I'm sorry, what?
It's the Silva Library, the old
Yes,
courthouse.
I heard everything, I just didn't catch what you said exactly it was about.
They have a class where they show you how to do your basic website.
Okay, that's what I
And then
thought
they give
you
you the
said.
information on how to
Yeah.
personalize it. and all
Yeah,
that.
I heard all that, I just,
That's where we have an all meeting.
That goes in.
And that's where I have the all meeting in Silva. So I can get some of those flyers and bring it back next time I'm up there.
Oh, you have to check, because they don't have an online thing, but there's, looks like they do the
They
same
don't
thing.
have a website?
that's pretty funny.
Well, they have the very very basic things. I was asking, you should send out an email, but anyway, they seem to be doing the same thing every month, so you have to call them.
They created the class to teach themselves.
It was like a 7-3, 14,
Where I think so.
For me, I would say with the workshops, being able to set a sacred space, allowing for creative spirit is a strength of mine. So, not great at, but like doing, organization. It's more of a time management thing. I have a lot of trouble with figuring out time management. Nervous about, but can deal with selling. Trying to sell something is not a strong point. But I have done that. So, what I really don't enjoy, math. I have a real math phobia. Somebody says a number and I go into panic. So, spreadsheets are essential for me, and I couldn't live without them. But there's a dyslexia thing too, so it's very unknown. Things like give up or share, definitely the accounting piece or, along with that, the organization of that paperwork, kind of stuff would be good. And the marketing would be the next thing. I would really like to have somebody just do it. just show up tomorrow and be an elf and have it done. Because I'm definitely at that limit right now. It's been a block for a little while, and it's been driving me crazy, but persistent and not giving up, but it's not quite happening just yet.
My strength, what I do best is I'm a self-starter. I'm very motivated, and so I'm anal attentive to the point. See it through, okay? What I'm not great at, but I really like doing is teaching. What makes me nervous, but I can only deal with it, is a cross between sales and public speaking. What I really do not enjoy doing is a cross between sewing and numbers and math. So here I'm starting this business and I hate to sew. I mean, literally, I taught myself in September how to sew. I bought a Singer Simple sewing machine. I said, "Dear Lord, I hope it is." And, and a surgery, that's, and I've been, to the point of putting patterns together, and, but that's why I've got to talk to you, and we need to get going. I have some questions for you. So, but hopefully I can, because I that's not the business I want to go into. I don't want to go into the selling business, but I want to get my bandana and blue jeans stuff out there. And I mean, I could do some things, but I need help. I can't do